911. What do
Whoa, 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 whoa! All right, all you cats and kittens, all you ladies and lady killers out there in real vile land, you know what time it is. You know what time it is. You know what time it is. It's real vile time. We got Killer Kelly. We got
Hey.
Ruthless Chris. And you got me,
So,
Mr. Germ T. Ripper, ready to rip it up in a modern way. We gotta be talking about that 2022 movie, The Menu. Ow, some crazy business there. It's got a lot of subtext. It's got a lot of nuance. It's got a lot of things going on, baby. But before we get to that, before we get to this, we're gonna get on to some little business. What's everybody been up to? Ruthless Chris, how about you? What you been up to, baby?
it's been a busy week. We've been tooling up for this time it's war coming up. By the time you hear this, it'll be this Friday coming up. So come on out to Detroit. We just announced a new location. It'll be at the Gaelic Irish Club in Corktown. So Peapod and I and Travis, we went up there to secure the venue. Peapod wrote a metal bowl on a dare. That was pretty funny. We got a good picture of that. The server and I told him he wouldn't do it, so he did it. Sure showed us.
And who am I to deny a dare like that?
I want to know exactly what does riding a metal bowl mean, though.
There's this place called Mercury Bar, which is right next to the venue. And it's got like a 50s throwback diner kind of vibe, but they do like elevated food in that style. Really good stuff. But out front they have like a welded together steel bowl, and it was missing a horn. So we got in a conversation with the bartender, like what happened to the bowl's horn, and he's like, oh, drunk bitches, and he made a joke. He's like, everyone's trying to ride that thing, and Peapod made a joke like, I was thinking about too, and then it turned into a round robin of you won't. Well, you won't. You won't. Yeah, I will.
I've always wanted to. I've always wanted to ride one of those things. I don't know what it is. It's on my bucket list of shit I got to do before I die.
Well, I think you're talking about a mechanical bowl. This was just a metal statue.
Oh.
So he's just sitting.
Well,
he was just sitting on top of it, and it was a bowl, not a bowl. I was thinking you said BOWL, not BULL. I was like, how do you ride a bowl? I'm like, is it like a giant
bowl?
Sled? Yeah, that's what I thought he said. But he said
I was
bull.
completely picturing the wrong thing.
It was a bull.
No, you were picturing the right thing, Kelly.
Yes.
You were picturing the right thing. He was not. And I think Peapod in that situation, he saw us staring him down. In that situation, he did what anyone in that situation would do. And you'd say, what would Chris Angel do? And Chris Angel would ride that bull, and Chris Angeled it up. So
fuck
kudos to him.
Magic.
Also, Kelly and I went and saw Megan. It's not going to be one of the movies we talk about tonight, but it wasn't bad. It was a pretty good movie.
I didn't hate it.
Give it 3 stars. Check it out. It's not bad.
I'd give it 3.
Good popcorn flick.
Three's a fair rating on that, I believe. But yeah.
But yeah, that's what I've been doing this week. How about you guys?
Kelly, what have you been up to, baby? Tell me.
Nothing out of the usual, the working, the 9 to 5, and hey, watching horror movies. So
that's what I'm talking about, living the good life.
Oh yeah.
Pretty much the same thing, same old, going to work, sleeping, going to AA meetings, all that fun stuff. But I did get to catch GCW Save Me here in Chicago, and that was fun. Got to see Matthew Justice leap off a balcony, so that was cool.
That's what he do.
I'd seen him once before, but it was for the big gay brunch, and he did not. There was no balcony to jump off of at that venue. So it was really cool to see in person, and like literally right next to me. Meeting Matt Tremont was really cool, even though he got hurt, which made me sad because I'm a big fan of his. But yeah, that's the only exciting thing that's really happened to me in the past week. So let's keep this terror train going, and let's talk about these movies we've been watching. Who wants to
Hell
start
yeah.
off this convo? Should I?
Hey, go for it.
Do it
Go
up,
for it.
Germ.
All right. Well, the first film I'd like to talk about is called KFC. And it's just like the restaurant KFC, and the logo for the movie is exactly like the restaurant's logo, but it doesn't have much, if very little, to do with KFC. Um, this is a Vietnamese, what I'm going to call street horror film, because
Hmm.
it was like guerrilla filmmaking at its most wild. The director, which I'm not even going to try and pronounce his name, it's going to be wild to try and pronounce his name, but it was him and his friends, like on their weekends and days off, and just random people he met on the street being like, can you want to be in my movie? So it's a totally non-linear picture, and like the director doesn't like that fact, but it's kind of cool in that way. um and then it deals with these three friends that have been friends since they were young children, and they become like violent gangsters, and they're cutting off people's fingers, and they're stabbing people and eating people. um,
Sick.
yes, there's it's extremely violent, extremely gory, uh, cannibalism, and since it's shot on no budget, it looks like real. It looks really real, except for like there's two spots with bad CGI. And that's another thing that on the making of, the director's like, I hate those two shots. I hate those two scenes. But yeah, it it makes sense when you watch it, and you'll get the feeling of like these street kids coming up, watching each other's backs, and killing people and eating people. But yeah, it's not really an easy watch, but at the same time, it's a good watch. I don't think it's streaming on any platforms right now, and it's funny that on IMDb they say that it came out in 2012, but then on Letterboxd it says that it came out in 2017, and it just got released on Blu-ray like this past year. So it's hard to tell, and I'm guessing by what the director said in the making of, that both IMDb and Letterboxd are probably correct. It probably got released a couple of times before it finally made its way to Blu-ray release. But yeah, if it when and if it starts streaming on a streaming service, you need to check this out. It's one of those films that you'll probably only watch once. You may watch it multiple times. I don't know if you like films that make you feel dirty, but it's definitely a must watch for people who like uh, cannibal films and foreign films. And I give it 4 stars. If you get a chance to watch it, watch it.
KFC.
Yes.
You know, when you posted the box art to this, I was real curious and actually did some digging on it. Looks really interesting. It looks up my alley. Like I like a lot of those Japanese like no budget splatter flicks, like the Up All Night series, Untold Story, stuff like that. This seems to kind of fit into that box, so I definitely am interested in checking it out.
Yeah, that sounds like a fun one. I would definitely check this out. I'll look for it. Hopefully it starts streaming somewhere.
Was that a Arrow release or Vinegar Syndrome?
It's one of Vinegar Syndrome's. It's one of their partner labels. I can't remember off the top of my head. I want to say Culture Shock, but I no, it's Decalogue. It's one of
Okay.
their yeah. It's a partner label called Decalogue, and I don't know. I can't think of anything else they put out, but that definitely stood out when I'm going through their Black Friday sale. I was like, yeah, let me just get this. I gotta check it out. Because it was like, it's not on the tip of the tongue of most horror movie websites or blogs or anything, but in the farther, darkest reaches of the corners of the internet, people were mumbling about it for a couple of years. So, yeah, and it did not disappoint. Except for like those two scenes that the director talks about that he hates because they have bad CGI. But for me, it kind of just led to that sort of no budget likability in
Yeah.
almost a stylistic choice, but he said it wasn't. If he hadn't said that, I wouldn't have known.
Yeah, a little bit of scrappy little
Yeah.
Japanese splatter flicks.
Yeah. Well, here's a Vietnamese one for you, baby.
Hell
Ow!
yeah.
Right on.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah,
what we
Kelly,
got?
Kelly,
What we
give
got
me
that?
it.
What do I got? Yeah, this one, the one I'm going to talk about. I stumbled across this one on Shudder. It's 2016's We Go On. It was written and directed by Andy Mitten and Jesse Holland. Andy Mitten was the director of the one of the movies that we featured earlier, Witch in the Window. So I was like, oh, okay, same dude. So let's check this one out. This one's completely different tone than Witch in the Window. Whereas that one was a lot slower and, like legit creepy. This one was it was creepy at parts, but it was a lot more fast paced than that one. This was about a man. He's kind of like scared of everything. He's got a phobia of death. Like that's his main thing. And he puts out this ad he will give anybody $30,000 if they can prove to him that there's an afterlife. So his ad goes viral and shit, and he starts getting calls from all sorts of fucking weirdos. And he like narrows it down to a few people. There's like a scientist, some Spanish psychic lady, this weird world traveler guy with a box that's a lot like the Hellraiser box. So he's like checking out all this shit, trying to find, proof of the afterlife. And he gets to some shit that scares the hell out of him. The movie kind of takes a turn there. I don't want to tell you much more about what happens because it would totally give it away, but I would definitely give this movie like a 3.5. It's totally worth a watch. I really enjoyed this one. It kind of like played on the idea that like the more you believe that you will see, like seeing is believing, or not seeing is believing, but if you believe in it, it's true. I guess. Yeah. Bad wording, but yeah.
That definitely
Right
sounds
on.
interesting. And you said that's on Shudder?
It's on Shudder. Yeah, I think it's a Shudder exclusive or Shudder original. But yeah, it was a really fun one. There was some really good like horror scenes. Like it wasn't just like jumpy parts. It like there were some scenes that actually made you feel like real creepy, kind of in the way that Witch in the Window did, but not as slow as that one. It was good.
Was it like a low budget and scrappy as like a Witch in the Window to where
No, it wasn't.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it
That was
wasn't.
one of the things
Go on.
That was one of the things I really liked about Witch of the Window was that he was able to deliver like really big scares and like really interesting ideas with like not a lot in the way of special effects or budget.
Yeah,
I thought that was something I really liked. So I'm definitely interested in checking out what's going on with this.
This one seems like it did have more of a budget than Witch in the Window, I'd say. Like it's filmed like a regular movie. It's not filmed like, found footage or anything like that. I really enjoyed this one. I definitely recommend it.
Right on.
Yeah.
Nice.
All right, for my first one, I stumbled across this. I don't know how I found it actually. This is from 2018. It's called The Dead Center by Billy Sinise. This could have easily been an A24 film. It's really high concept. It's very interesting and artsy, but it really delivers on some scares. Basically, the gist of this is you have a John Doe who gets brought into a morgue because he OD'd. They toe tag him, slab him, go home for the night. Well, in the middle of the night, this dude just wakes up and he has no idea who the fuck he is, and he just starts just wandering around this hospital, ends up in the psych ward. And they're trying to figure out who this John Doe is, why he came back from the dead, all this shit. And then it kind of goes into some like really dark and weird and eerie territory. This one was surprisingly good. The only complaint I really had was it really stretched out in the middle. before delivering on the big end, and it really did deliver in the end. That's one of the things I really liked about it, is it took its time on a setup, and it seemed like it could have really, like, honestly, you know what? If you remember when I talked about that Army Hammer movie Wounds, and I said it had a really good setup and then just kind of stopped. This one kind of feels like if Wounds gave you the ending you wanted, because it kind of was in the same vein a little bit, but it actually had the payoff in the finish. So this one was pretty cool. I gave it 3.5. Definitely worth watching. I watched it on Amazon Prime. It's free on there, so definitely check it out. The Dead Center.
Hell yeah. That sounds like up my alley, actually. Sounds like I'd
You'd
enjoy
like
that.
it. I mean, it's a bit of a slow burn, so like be ready for that when you strap in. But then when it finally gets to where it's going, it pulls no punches. I mean, there's some trigger warning. There's some stuff with children that might be upsetting to certain people, but it's pretty good.
Oh yeah.
Nice. Very exciting. Very cool. And where did you say this was streaming on?
I believe I watched it. It was either on Amazon Prime or Hulu, but I think it was Amazon Prime. Yeah, it was streaming on Amazon Prime.
Awesome. Can't wait to check it out. And back over to big old G to the E to the R to the M. It's me. Yes, I'm
You give
gonna
yourself
talk.
the best intros.
To the G to the R to the M.
Well, I'll try harder to give everybody else an equally good intro. All right. The next movie I'm going to talk about is I'd watched this once before, and it was the first time I watched it. I watched it because it was streaming on Shudder. There's a lot of buzz about it, and I wound up once again. I think it was the same sale. I picked up a copy from Vinegar Syndrome's Black Friday sale, and it's one of their partner labels again. I think this partner label, actually, I'm sure this partner label is called Altered Innocence, and I think they cater mostly to queer LGBTQ independent cinema. This might be the only horror film that I can think of that is out on that label, but it's called Knife and Heart. It is
this is great.
Yes, it is a 20.
It's on Shudder too.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's when I first saw it.
I don't
Yeah,
remember
I saw
if
it
I
on Shudder.
watched this, but I can definitely picture the cover. I know it's popped up as like a suggestion for me.
Oh,
Yeah.
it's great.
Yeah, it's seriously weird, and but I mean, if you're a fan of Italian giallo, then you will absolutely be able to recognize that a good giallo doesn't necessarily have to make sense. It can just be really cool to watch for the sake of being really cool to watch. And that's what this French film basically is. It's a queer French giallo about the porn industry, and people start getting killed off this one porn set. You know, different actors, and the director of the films is taking it upon herself to investigate the murders because, of course, since the characters are queer, the police don't really care. The detectives are kind of pushing it off to the side, and she gets sort of tangled up into this world, and she starts exploiting the murders and filming a porno based on them. It is a delight. Well, not, I can't really call it delightful, but it is a decadent, it is very devious. I can't think of the D word I'm thinking of. Can you think of a D word I'm thinking of?
Devilish,
Dick.
No, no.
demented.
Demented. Duh.
Of course, your first thing goes to dick. Jesus Christ, Kelly.
But regardless, it is
Deviant. Delirious?
Depraved.
Depraved.
Yes.
There you go.
There
Yes.
it is.
Similar to KFC, this movie is depraved. You know, if you're not into cruising, if you're not into giallo, if you're not into queer cinema, you're probably not going to enjoy it. because that is all the things that this is. You know, it's a slasher film. It's shallow. It's weird. There are scenes that don't make sense, and that's okay because it's a beautiful film and it's great to watch. Highly recommended. I give it 4.5. Absolutely. Because I love all those things. I love the movie Cruising. I love Giallo, and I love, uh, you know, queer cinema. So, anyways, if you
You know,
haven't seen Knife and Heart, watch Knife and Heart. It's streaming
Hell
on
yeah.
Shudder, or pick up a physical copy if you get a chance to.
one of the things he left out about Knife and Heart, though, is it's a period piece too, and that's what makes it kind of cool as well. Um, and it's really gritty. Kind of loved it a lot. Definitely would give it 4. And I've never seen Cruising. I need to watch it.
Oh no, yeah,
No,
watch
I didn't know it
Cruising.
was a horror movie till recently. I thought it was a thriller.
Well, I mean, people would call it. I think that the word thriller can be synonymous with horror. You know what I mean?
In a lot of
I
ways, yeah. I've seen some movies that are just labeled as thriller and like wherever you look them, and I'm like, that was a straight up horror movie. I guess it
Right.
depends on how you look at like the concept, you know? Does it scare you?
I
Yeah,
I
because I
think I
mean,
meant more like I thought it was like along the lines of something like Fatal Attraction or Sliver or something like that, where it's just like a kind of the sleazy adult thriller as opposed to having horror elements.
hmm
I feel that. But yeah, it's similar to this. It's a must watch. So if you haven't checked it out, check that one out as well.
Plus, it's got Pacino.
Yes,
Pacino.
as an undercover cop picking up dudes and going into leather bars, and the germs are on the soundtrack.
I
I
do
think
I do get a kick of that gif that goes around from it, where it's just like the dude in the interrogation room, and the shirtless black cowboy in the hat just comes walking in and punches him in the face, and just walks out.
yes. There are a lot of great scenes. I think that's by William Friedkin as well from The Exorcist.
Yeah, it's a freaking.
Yeah.
It's a freaking.
And I thought it was
It's a
funny
freaking.
how he got the germs on the soundtrack was that like the music being played in this sleazy leather bar was the same disco being played in regular gay bars, and he wanted something more dangerous. So he got the germs to record a couple songs.
Hell
Right
yeah.
on.
Word. Well, my next movie is an old favorite of mine. I haven't seen it in a long time, and I've been talking about it to my boyfriend forever. This one is Behind the Mask, The Rise of Leslie Vernon, 2006. I fucking love this movie. It's written and directed by Scott Glosserman. It also stars Robert Englund is in this movie. He's not like the main character or anything, but he's definitely in it. He is, and as
The
well as
Ahab.
yeah, he's the Ahab. He's the Loomis.
The Ahab.
It's also got Scott Wilson, but probably most recognizable is Herschel from The Walking Dead, the old guy. But yeah, this one is about there's a film crew. They're doing a documentary. This takes place in a world. Imagine that Freddy and Jason and Michael, that's all real. Those were all real events. It's not a fictional story. So this takes place in a world like that. And this documentary crew meets up with Leslie Vernon, who is aspiring to be a serial killer on the level of Michael and Jason and Freddy. So he agrees to have this film crew follow him while he plans out his kills, or kind of shows them the ropes of what it's like to, stalk girls or stalk his prey, prepare for the night that it's going to happen. Like he shows her how it's going to happen. I fucking love this movie. It's so good. The character Leslie Vernon is just hilarious in a lot of ways. Like you love him so much until you don't. This movie rocks. Definitely something I'd recommend. I'd give it a 4.5 or 5. It's
The great thing about this one,
yeah.
the great thing about this one is like it like does stuff like what Scream did before it,
Hmm.
but it does it in a much more contained and focused level. Like where
Yeah.
Scream was just like, you can't have sex, you're gonna die, like the
Yeah.
overall general arcing rules of horror. This has like how do you think they're running through the woods and I gotta look like I'm
Yeah.
walking, how much cardio that takes, like
It,
really getting into the microcosm of it. It's really entertaining, and it's really funny for the first half, and then when it gets to the horror, it is a legit horror movie.
it is. It becomes like a legit slasher film. And I love it because at the same time, you're right. It's kind of a satire on all the other slasher films because he's like, all right, this is how this is going to work. She's going to hear me in the shadows and then, she's going to freak out, but not really know what happened. I just absolutely love this movie. It's one of my all time favorites.
Yeah, it's super smart, super well done, and I just love how meta it is and how self-referential it is. And it was definitely way ahead of its time because uh, I think if that came out nowadays, it would have been way bigger. It would have
Yeah.
had a bigger audience. Yeah, I love that film as well. Definitely a 4.5.
Yeah. Yeah.
4.5 all day.
Four
This
and
is
a half.
also a personal favorite of mine. It's one of those ones that's an easy like I could jump into any part of that movie and then watch it to the end because I've
Hmm.
seen it so many times, and it's really easy to digest. It's really fun and tongue in cheek, and like the performances in it are really good too. This is just
Yeah.
an all around great film. Like it's just one of those ones that you can always revisit and always have a good time with and never really get bored with.
Yeah, and my boyfriend, like, that's a good point. He's not even a big fan of horror. He absolutely loved this. Like, he was super getting into it. He's like, I love Leslie. I'm like, I know. Just wait.
Just to wait.
Just you wait.
Yeah, they've
But
been
yeah.
they've been teasing us with a sequel for years, but I don't think it's ever going to happen.
Yeah. I don't think this is streaming anywhere. I found a copy at a local used movie store that we have here in town. But if you ever do see it, I think it was on Shutter. It's kind of misleading because for the neo slashers category they use on Shutter, it's in the background photo. Like it's literally Leslie standing there, but I can't find the movie on Shutter, so I don't know what the deal with that is, but yeah, highly recommended.
All right, for my next one, this is not streaming anywhere. I had to order a copy of this. Jeez, I apologize for the coughing. This is the Out There Halloween Mega Tape. This is the sequel to the WNUF Halloween special that you can watch on Shutter. It's very much the same, except this one's more of an anthology to where Halloween special was one story, kind of with like commercials and stuff interweaved. This one, it's three different stories, and they're chopped up through like they made a shit ton of '90s commercials and just like kind of just splattered them through this thing, and I could not believe how good a job they did on these '90s commercials. Like you would have thought it was stuff you had seen before. Like they did a fantastic job. And then there's a section that's set up almost like a Ricky Lake talk show from the '90s. There's an alien section, and then there's like a wraparound that kind of feeds into the WNUF Halloween special. I had so much fucking fun with this movie. Like I've watched it twice now. I plan on watching it again. This is one of those ones that you can just pop in and have a good time with. All the fake trailers are so goddamn well done and convincing. I cannot recommend this enough. The only way you can get a copy of this is through their website, which is a big cartel website. I would recommend it. It was definitely worth the buy. I give it 4. It was a lot. I enjoyed the first one. I'd give the first one a 3, but this is a definite 4. This was way, way better. So Out There Halloween Mega Tape. And the other cool thing was when they sent it to me, like the packaging, they made it look like I was getting a bootleg tape. Like even the package it was in when it came in the mail, it was like from Tony's VHS dungeon and had like all this like really weird shit on the outside. Like it looked like kind of sketchy when it came. It was really cool. Like they kind of made it a whole experience. So Definitely give these guys some props. They made this for like next to nothing, and it seriously looks like a tape of somebody like their favorite shit from the 90s that they just kind of slapped together that you would have bought at like a secondhand store or like a flea market or something. Definitely recommend. I loved this.
Cool. I'm gonna have to keep an eye out for that because I know that last Halloween, the Music Box Theater here in Chicago, they did a screening of it, a double feature with that and WNUF, and I think it was sponsored by uh, the Graveface Records here. I think they have a location in Atlanta as well. That they have a serial killer museum in the back that you can pay $5 to look at, and then in the front they have physical media, T-shirts, art, stuff like that. So yeah, if that ever comes back to the theater, or if they play it again this coming Halloween, I'm gonna have to make my way down to the Music Box and check that out. Otherwise, I'll have to order a physical copy. I wonder if there are any plans for a bigger label to reissue it because when Vinegar Syndrome put out WNUF, I'm sure a lot of fans, myself included, popped for that big time.
Yeah, I'm not really sure. I have been talking to the director just a little bit, or messaging. I'm not really sure what the plans are. I had heard them on another podcast say that they were giving this like their big cartel thing kind of like a whirl on like an initial run, but they didn't mention anything on like going further. I know the first one ended up on Shutter, so I'm hoping maybe that this will end up there too, coming for next Halloween because it'd be perfect for that.
That would be very, very dope. You said you give it a
Very
4?
Give it a 4.
Nice.
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 That's a
It's a
good
Nice.
blast.
one
You guys would
tonight.
love it, honestly. Kelly,
Yeah.
you would have a goddamn blast with this thing.
Hell yeah. I'll check that one out for sure.
I'll let
Very,
you
very
borrow it.
cool.
Okay.
Let's keep this terror train rolling.
Terror train.
Well, my last pick before we roll into Spoiler Town is the 2007 remake or reimagining of the Herschel Gordon Lewis classic, The Wizard of Gore. I am such a fan of Herschel Gordon Lewis that the remakes of his films kind of always let me down. And I shouldn't say kind of, they do let me down. I've seen, the reimagining of Blood Feast, and it's a kind of a big thumbs down. Every movie that tries to recreate that film, even if it's a good version of it, like Hollywood Chainsaw Hookers or Blood Diner, it still kind of doesn't do it justice. And then my favorite Herschel Gordon Lewis film is 2000 Maniacs, and
Hmm.
the remake they did of that 2001 Maniacs,
Yeah.
or the sequel, just what didn't stand up to the standard that I had for my favorite Herschel Gordon Lewis film. The Wizard of Gore, on the other hand, though, I liked that they tried something completely different. I mean, it still stuck to the basic story that Montague the Magnificent, played by Crispin Glover, which
Uh,
everybody knows he is.
Sweet.
Yeah, he is bizarre and he's amazing to watch on screen. He's a master illusionist and he performs at like an underground,
Imagine.
you know, I'm not sure what time period this is supposed to take place in. I'm guessing like 90s, thousands, whatever, when like Jim Rose sideshow was big. But yeah, like this I'm not sure if he's a detective or whatever, but he has his own indie newspaper and it covers like freak shows and stuff. But anyways, he goes there, he sees Montague's shtick, and it kind of blows his mind. And then the next day, the girl that Montague cuts open in front of everybody shows up dead, and they're saying that it was like a shark attack, and you know this happens once and it's like, oh, okay, well, that's a weird coincidence, but then it happens again, and then it happens to his best friend, and it's very noir-esque, which I love. um as I was watching it, it reminded me of one of my favorite Clive Barker movies, Lord of Illusions, just because of that noir aspect and that
Hmm.
showmanship aspect.
Okay.
And then the cast is incredible. Of course, like I mentioned earlier, Crispin Glover. But then it also has Jeffrey Combs from Reanimator. And oh, God, it's just an amazing cast. I can't
Doesn't
remember
have
off the
Brad
top of my
Dorff in
head.
it too?
Yes, thank you.
Oh, nice, nice.
Yes. Brad Dourif is in it. He plays like an eccentric, um, holistic, like a healer of sorts. There are points in the movie where he's giving the main character acupuncture, but with leeches. um,
Hell yeah.
yeah, I mean, it's still a remake of a movie that probably a lot of people don't think too highly of to begin with. But as far as reimaginings of Herschel Gordon Lewis's work, this is probably the only one that I'm like fully on board with. So I'm gonna give it a 3.
Okay.
You had me at Crispin Glover, Jeffrey Combs, and Brad Dorff. Even if
Yeah.
it was hot garbage, I'm still gonna watch it.
Yeah. Yeah. Same, man.
And it's streaming on
I
Tubi, so it's
hell
for
yeah.
it's for free. So even it like once again, even if it's hard garbage, it's free and it's got a amazing cast. So you know, you can't go wrong. It's only an hour and 34 minutes. If you're going to waste some time, might as well waste it on something featuring an amazing cast and for free.
Absolutely, man.
Hell
What you
yeah.
got, Kelly?
The next one I'm going to talk about is one I'd never even heard of until what, like 2 days ago, yesterday. It's another 2022 Justin Long movie that seemed to have flown under my radar. House of Darkness. It's on Hulu right now. Um, Director writer Neil LaBute. I guess he was like the writer for Wicker Man. There was a couple other ones. This is starring Justin Long and Kate Bosworth. Basically, Justin Long, he meets a girl at a bar, goes to take her home. He gets her home and she lives in this real creepy castle and she's acting real weird, but he's kind of a douchebag. So like he's still there trying to bang her even though the shit gets weirder and weirder progressing through the movie. This one's really enjoyable, man. Although it's kind of slow till it actually like builds up to anything. It's just very heavy in dialogue, but it was a fun one. To me, it kind of played like a really long, like episode of an anthology series. I felt like the ending could have went longer. They could have, turned that into like a whole nother maybe added another 20 minutes to it, but I don't know, this was a fun one. At the same time, I don't think I would have liked it as much without Justin Long. Like there was something about him playing that character that made this movie much more likable than anybody else would have been playing that character. Chris, did you see this one? I think you said you see it.
Yes, I did. I do enjoy Justin Long in a horror movie.
Yeah.
Well, I enjoy him in most things. I think he's pretty fucking entertaining.
Yeah.
Like even if you think about like Drag Me to Hell, like you're supposed to hate that character because it's Justin Long, you're like, yeah, I like the
Yeah, yeah. Or even in Barbarian, like even though he was such a hateable character in Barbarian, but like he did it in such a hilarious way that was like lovable at the same time. Like, oh, Justin Long.
Yeah. I like this one, but I'll give it the caveat that
Yeah.
this one's not really like a super hardcore horror movie. This is more
No,
like if Mammoth did horror, it's mostly dialogue.
it is.
But it's a fun watch. I'm glad I watched it. I'll probably never watch it again, but I really enjoyed it. You throw Justin Long in a horror movie, I'm gonna check it out. So
Exactly. That's what I thought. I was like, what? Justin Long made another horror movie this year? And I got all excited about it. And it's fun. It's a fun movie. It's pretty predictable. You know exactly where it's going, like right off the rip. But it's a fun one. It's worth a watch. I'd give it a 3.
And it's called House of Darkness.
House of Darkness. It's on Hulu right now.
Very cool. Yeah, I'll have to check it out because, like you were saying, Justin Long as that douchey, nerdy character actor that you love to hate.
Yeah,
That wins me over every time.
right.
For my next one, I watched Daniel Isn't Real.
Oh,
So
Um,
good.
mm-hmm. I watched this a
this
couple
one
years ago.
had been suggested to me for a very long time, and it's just one of those ones that, like when you're meaning to watch something and you're interested in watching it, but you just don't really get around to it. I had been kind of putting it off. This one, it really surprised me. I really liked where it went. It stars Arnold Schwarzenegger's son. And that kid can act circles around his dad. He was really fucking good in this movie. Basically, you have a kind of social outcast, kind of an artsy kid. He's off to college away from his family for the first time. His mother, his family's gone. It's just his mother, and some tragedies kind of start happening, and it reinvokes this imaginary friend he had when he was a child that got him into trouble when he was younger, and he had suppressed it, and now it came back. And it starts out, the imaginary friend's really helpful. It helps him with his confidence. It helps him, like start getting girls and being a little more extroverted and going to parties, and it really like helps him out, in the way that a lot of children use an imaginary friend as a crutch. But then it kind of takes a turn into something much, much more sinister. And it's something that they hinted at in the beginning of the movie when he was a child. Like I said, something bad happened with him and this imaginary friend when he was younger that he suppressed it. This one was really cool. This one could have easily been an A24 film too if it wasn't, or if it's not already. I'm not sure if it was, but it's definitely very artsy. I really liked. I thought it was an interesting take on something that's familiar to a lot of people with, like, the imaginary friend, or like the crutch you have, and being an introvert and all that. This one was really cool. I would definitely recommend it. I gave it 4. This one I'll probably end up watching again because I feel it's one of those things where there's probably things you missed the first time around that you have to check out the second. It has some really cool artsy stuff towards the end that deals with like almost like very low budget Cell kind of territory, the Cell. But yeah, it's really cool. Definitely check this out. This would make a good back to back actually with the one I talked about earlier, the Dead Center.
Mm.
Because the mythos that they go into kind of hover near each other. They're not the same thing, but they're kind of hovering near each other. So that would actually make a good double feature. Daniel Isn't Real and the Dead Center. But yeah, definitely check out Daniel Isn't Real. I like this one a lot.
You can make it a triple feature with Cameron's Closet.
I think you're the only one that's watched that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
probably. It may not actually exist. Maybe I just thought that it existed. It was a fever dream of mine.
Well, if that was a fever dream of yours, then Star Time was a fever dream of mine, because that was in the height of me being sick and whacked out on cold medicine and shit. And that felt like a fucking fever dream when I watched that movie.
Yeah, I'm glad you liked Daniel Isn't Real, though. I thoroughly enjoyed that film as well. What star rating would you give that?
4.
4. I think I'd go with a 4 as well, if I remember correctly. I think I would definitely go with a hard 4.
I watched it around when they first put it up on Shutter. That was a couple years ago, but I think I remember thinking around the 3 range. I might have to revisit that one. But yeah, I do remember that one, and it was definitely enjoyable.
Nice.
Yeah, it was cool.
Very cool. I'm glad we all enjoyed Daniel Isn't Real. But you know what time it is?
It's spoiler time.
We tethering on up to Spoiler Town.
We're taking a train to Spoiler Town. Spoiler Town. SPOILER. Spoiler Town.
And now for our feature presentation.
Oh, God.
I don't know. I don't know if any of us saw this in the theater. Did you guys see this in the theater at all?
Yes, yes, I
Yes, you
did.
did.
Yep, I
Okay.
did get to see this in the theater.
Well, I remember when I first saw the trailer to our feature film for tonight, The Menu. I was so impressed by the trailer that I was like, "Oh, I gotta see this! I gotta see this! I gotta see this!" And then I just never got around to seeing it in the theater. So I'm totally stoked that it's streaming on HBO Max because this is a stupendous film, and it's been very divisive. I've seen on social media. There hasn't been too many like, it's a movie. It's usually people love it or they hate it. And I love movies like that personally.
Hmm.
I've I've seen a lot more love than hate. But
Yeah,
also, I want to throw
same.
this out. Like, I know we already gave our spoiler warning, but this is like Barbarian, to where if you have any interest in seeing this movie,
Yeah,
don't listen to us talk about it because it will ruin the fun for you.
yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, like it's the blackest of black comedy. Uh, the main thing that I've seen people argue about, and I don't understand the argument, is it a horror movie? And I think it
Yeah,
absolutely is.
I
Yeah.
have also seen that argument. Like the concept of it is completely a horror concept.
Well,
I
even the
feel
We'll get into
execution
it.
of it.
Yeah,
yeah.
execution. Yes, yes.
I feel sort of
And
like we were discussing earlier the rise of Leslie Vernon.
Hmm.
It's very meta, it's very self-referential, and I think that that's something that your casual movie viewer isn't going to grasp onto. And when these words come out of my mouth, I realize that I sound exactly like one of the diners, Tyler, who like he analyzes everything that the cook does.
Yeah.
And so, but anyway, we haven't really discussed what the movie is about. This young couple travels to the remote island to eat an exclusive restaurant where the chef has prepared a lavish menu and it's filled with shocking surprises,
To say the least.
to say the least. Um, yeah, the to me, it made, I wouldn't say made fun of, but it pokes at uh, pretentiousness
Hmm.
in a very absurd way towards people that overcomplicate things when sometimes that's not needed. But I loved it. From minute one, I just
Hmm.
thought that all the characters were very smart. I thought that the dialogue was great. Um, but I never worked in the food industry. So I think that if you worked in the food industry, you might have a different take on this. And then Ruthless Chris, I know that you have.
that's where I'll come in on
Yes.
this. So this one had more layers for me. As somebody who not only works in the food industry, but has done high-end dining, went to the culinary schools. Like Kelli will tell you, I was the executive chef
Hmm.
of a country club for a while. Like I may not look it, but I could really get down in the kitchen. And there was a lot of things that really had a visceral reaction to me in this. Like the subtext of losing joy in what you're doing. Like I used to
Yeah.
really love cooking, and it's been beaten out of me. Um,
Hmm. I feel the
like
same way sometimes with design and photography, but yeah.
like a lot of the things that were the impetus of what he was doing are things that really fried me up on a day-to-day basis, like the people not giving a shit about how much effort you put in, or overly analyzing it and like looking at you a certain way, or like trying to put themselves on the same level because they watched a YouTube clip, or read or
Hmm.
watched like Chef's Table or something. And it's like it is a thankless job that that is super super demanding on people, so that really within the confines of this movie really like hit hard and home with me, to the point where when it got to the cheeseburger scene, I literally cried a little bit. Like I'm not
Yeah.
even kidding.
Yeah.
Like it like really made me remember like when I used to like really love doing this and really love like getting up and go to work and all this shit. And like that does not exist within me anymore. Like the joy of cooking. Like if I'm at home cooking, or if you catch me like I'll cook at Kelly's house sometimes,
Mhm.
or like catch me like when I'm doing something for myself or my friends, that's when you'll see me like really love cooking. But institutional cooking kicked the shit out of me. And this movie really, really put that all into frame for me, you know?
Yeah, yeah. For me, this one, because I'm also an artist, and it came down to like, as an artist, the chef he was so beat down by like the criticisms and the critics, and just like everybody just taking his food for granted. He just kind of turned them into a piece of his art, by the end of it. Like, and like that whole concept to me is where I'd argue, like, how is that not a horror concept, Like he's literally turning the said critics that drove him basically insane enough. He's turning them into a piece of his art ultimately in the end. I don't know.
Yes.
I really enjoyed that.
I thought it was interesting that when you look up director Mark Mylod, he hasn't directed anything else that is horror or even horror adjacent.
Hmm.
It's mainly all like episodes of television series. I guess the closest thing would probably be his episode of Amazing Stories, which was a reboot of the 80s television show. But other than that, it's mostly dramas. We did an episode of Shameless and things of that nature.
Secession. Mostly
Yeah,
didn't do a bunch of Secession.
Mhm.
yeah, but I mean, this was his first feature-length horror film, and to have it be so smart and so well done was an amazing feat to me. This is one of those movies that I feel like it would be in an A24 category. You know what I mean? Uh,
I can see
to
that.
to me, it felt like. Have you guys seen the movie Adaptation?
Yes.
Yeah.
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 Where like if you are really smart, you're gonna get that towards the third act of the movie is actually the author rewriting his manuscript to fit what the audience would want to see, and it makes you laugh out loud. Uh, so this was on that level for the fact that it and I'm not saying that this is the exact meaning of the film, but to me, it was like the movie industry, and the chef was the director of the film. You know what I mean? The super fan, he was the guy like me that analyzes every second of the movie as he's watching it. And then, of course, you got the critics and the financiers and all these other people that are trying to take a take hits at him. And then finally, you get this one girl who's like, "I just want a fucking cheeseburger, I just want to enjoy a movie, And that's how I interpreted the whole thing. Is like it's how movie filmmakers have overcomplicated things to a point where they want to be perceived in a way of making this wonderful art. And sometimes moviegoers just want to have fun and forget themselves in a film. They want a cheeseburger, and you can blow up the rest of the shit. And I just loved that it took an absurd view at how pretentious uh, art can be, whether it's filmmaking or food or graphic design. It just took a great shot at everybody that is a part of that. And yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed this movie a lot. I can't
And
recommend it
fuck if you
enough.
won't want a cheeseburger by the end of it, I don't know you.
Dude,
like,
that
like you'll
did
sit
look
there and look
like
at all that food and you're at the end and be like, man, I sure could go for a fucking cheeseburger.
That did look like an amazing cheeseburger. And you know what? I love John Leguizamo in this. I haven't seen him in a while, but I loved his character in this. I think,
Really? He's
yeah,
he's been popping up everywhere.
yeah.
He's in well, you haven't watched any of the John Wick movies. He's in all of those. And
I watched 1 and 2.
did you?
Yeah.
Well, I thought that it was an interesting casting decision that all the patrons to the restaurant were actors or character actors that you're going to look at and be like, I know that person from somewhere. You know what I mean? People of our age group, we're going to know John Leguizamo from everything. But
Mm-hmm.
if they're a younger audience, they're probably just going to be like, oh, yeah, I know that guy from somewhere. And I think that's another thing that they were trying to poke fun of or parody is that everybody, all the patrons from the restaurant, except for our protagonist, they thought that they were someone of importance, but nobody else really knew who they were. So that's
Yes.
how I interpreted the
Yeah.
casting as well.
Oh yeah, I didn't even think about that. That's
Yeah, the
interesting.
casting was great.
Yeah.
And I think John Leguizamo was almost a parody of himself in that, like because he did die off as an actor for a little bit.
Hmm.
But in the early mid '90s, you couldn't go anywhere without seeing him. I mean, he was everything from the Jerk to Super Mario Brothers.
So the pest and
Or the past, not
Spun.
the Jerk. Yeah, yeah.
Spun was a good one.
So
But
yeah, I really had fun with this one. Ray Fiennes, I really enjoy him as an actor in almost anything he's in. I think he's
which
like
one?
one of those really underrated guys. He was the chef.
Ah, okay, yeah, yeah.
like I really liked him as the Tooth Fairy and Red Dragon.
Oh
Like
yeah.
almost everything he's in, he really dives headlong in. And one of the other cool things, for me at least, was if you pay attention to the cooking in the background that they're doing, they are actually cooking the food for the next course. Why the scenes are going on, and they literally have the all the people that were in the kitchen are all kitchen workers. So they
Mm-hmm.
try to make it all as authentic as possible. So all those people actually can cook.
Oh
So they're
wow.
back there actually cooking that food in the background. And they had a chef come in and actually plan those dishes, and the people in the film are actually eating those dishes. It's not prop food. So that I
Really?
thought that was pretty interesting too.
That is definitely an interesting fact. Wow.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. And I wouldn't have picked up on that not being a chef or in the service industry. That's definitely gives it another layer to appreciate.
Yeah, I mean it was really cool all around. The only thing, all right, there was one thing, and hopefully you guys would help me out with this because I watched this again today.
Mm-hmm.
I just finished it a couple hours ago. Just wanted to because I watched it last week for the first time, and I kind of wanted to rehash
Mm-hmm.
it. So they send her out for a barrel at the end for the last course. They didn't do anything with the barrel for it.
Wasn't it part of the s'mores? The last courses they were turning everybody into a bunch of s'mores. Was there something in there, maybe?
Correct, but no, they didn't use a barrel. They like put graham crackers from bowls and shit everywhere.
Well,
Huh, I didn't notice.
that whole thing was a test because he knew that the barrel wasn't there. He knew that the
She comes back with the barrel. She
oh,
rolls it
right,
down the stairs when she comes back.
right, but his sous chef or whatever, no,
Oh
the
yeah,
greeter. The greeter was supposed to originally, he said that she was supposed to bring it, but she didn't. And she mentions it to her as she's dying. He never asked me to because she was his number two. You know what I'm saying? And when he asked, what's her name? Anya?
Margot.
Yeah.
Anya, yeah, Margot.
Asked Margot to
Margot was
go
the
get the
girl that
barrel.
yeah.
This he knew that this would ignite a feud between the two of them for one, and that was an amazing fight scene between the two of them.
Yes, it was.
But then it was also a test to see if she would go get the barrel and come straight back, or if she was going to try and escape or try and call for help, which of course she does because she's got a brain in her head. This is a sex worker, I guess you'd say, a call girl, and she's probably a little bit more street smart. So of course she tried to call for help.
Streets ahead.
What's that?
She's streets ahead.
Just
Okay.
Peapod
Um,
knows what I mean.
but then of course when the help arrives, the help that arrives is just another one of the chef's employees who's
which
in
are
on the gag. and on the horrible torment that these patrons are going through, and some rightfully so, and others not so rightfully so. Like John Leguizamo's character. You starred in a movie I didn't like. What? So you're gonna kill him?
Right,
I'd
right.
be killing so many people if that was the case, but it's not, because that's not how rational people behave. But obviously, this chef is not a rational person. He's like,
I
that
didn't
was
take I didn't take that scene as that's what he meant by that. I took that scene as you had given up on your craft and took my free time away from me because you stopped caring. Is what I thought that meant. Like you have everything given to you. You're ultra famous, and now you think you're owed it, and you just slept your way through this movie. And it was my first day off in months. I went to see your movie, and you didn't give a flying fuck about it, and it ruined my day. That's how I took it. Like, I give all my time to you to feed you, and then I take my free time to watch this, and you couldn't give a shit less. And I took that as like they all said that conversation where he was going to do the food show, and they were like, "Well, what's your idea for me? Pitch me." And he's like, I show up, I eat it, and I go, "That's real good." And we cash a check. Like I think they were trying to hit home that not only is he washed up, but he doesn't give a fuck.
Yeah, no, totally. I see that.
Yeah, I can definitely see that. I more felt bad for his girlfriend. She's like, he's like, "Did you go to college?" And she's like, "Yeah." He's like, "Loans?" She's like, "No." He's like, "I'm sorry, you're dying."
Right.
That wasn't his girlfriend. That was like a business partner / mistress, because she was like giving his keys back, and she's like, "Here's the keys to your house and the keys to your apartment your wife doesn't know about." So he's married. She's the side chick.
Right, but still, because she didn't work hard for what she got, now she's gonna die. I mean, it was kind of an extreme.
The whole thing
thing
was kind of extreme. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and I love the courses. Kind of like when he was hanging out, his main financier, the one who actually owned his restaurant, outside as an angel, and like forces him to drown in the lake outside. I saw that as like a director, telling the producer of the movie to fuck off. I don't need to live by your rules because my producer's dead, and now I'm gonna make my own movie. So everything I thought was executed well. I see a lot of complaints about the ending, and I think the ending is equally as brilliant because it's absurd, and for me at least, it kind of like references Midsummer, with the burning and the sacrifice, and everybody or somebody dying through fire. But then, of course, you've got Margot sitting on a boat eating her fucking cheeseburger. And that's what the juxtaposition of the two images is so brilliant, of somebody who just wants to enjoy the movie, enjoy her food, enjoy her, whatever the case may be. And these people that are just all dying because this guy wants to make art.
Well, not only that, they for a movie called The Menu, there's that final fuck you where she's eating the cheeseburger and she has the gift bag and she pulls out the menu of what they were eating. She wipes the fucking grease from the cheeseburger out her mouth and throws it away.
Yes.
And then it goes into the, they were playful with the course introductions, the amuse bouche and, the go there. And like, even when they did the thing to Tyler, they're like, Tyler's bullshit.
Tyler's bullshit.
Yes.
And then so after
all labeled like that. What's that show on Netflix? The Chef's Show. Table. Yeah, Chef's Table. Yep, it was all.
Yeah,
they got like that.
They got the guy who does Chef's Table to do those interludes after the movie was filmed. That's why the little chorus interludes look like that.
That's awesome.
But as she wipes her mouth, it goes to the final chorus and it goes s'mores. It's like graham cracker, chocolate, marshmallow, guest, restaurant, chef, everybody.
Yep.
I think credits roll. I thought that was really good.
Yeah. Yeah. If I had watched this in 2022, I would have definitely put this on my top 10.
It was in my top.
I as well.
I enjoyed it. Absolutely. I'd give this one a 4.5.
Yeah, I'm going with a 4.5.
Yeah.
I'm teetering on a 5, but I'm at a 4.5. I mean, I love absurdist humor. I love the dark comedy, and I love pretentious bullshit for the sense of pretentious bullshit. And I
Yeah.
love it even more when it's being made fun of for being pretentious bullshit.
Yeah, that was great. That was great.
And just the sense of humor of it, like there's just little things they did that just really made me giggle. Like the bread course cracked me the fuck up. They're like, yeah, peasants eat bread. That's why you don't get any. And then like they go to the course thing and it's a close up on this delicious looking homemade bread, and then it just drops down to like the sides, and it's like no bread. I like that. So yeah, I would definitely highly recommend it. 4.5 with me as well. Love this movie.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, so if you have HBO Max, definitely check it out. If you've sat through our spoiler town, well, now you know most of the movie. If you haven't already watched it, but we all loved it, and I hope you enjoyed the menu as much as we did. Next week we are going to have a guest, but it is a mystery guest. It's kind of like when a wrestler has like a mystery opponent. We're having a mystery guest. So make sure you tune in next week to see who the fuck we're gonna talk to. Ow! Any last words, Kelli or Chris?
Nope. I mean, stay spooky.
Keep it creepy, kiddos.
Keep it creepy.
All right, I'm gonna say what I gotta say, and that's God bless America. Send nudes.
Woo!
Hey, all you cats and kittens, all you ladies and lady killers out there in real Vile land. This is your old pal, Mr. Germ T. Ripper, saying keep it spooky, keep it creepy, keep it real vile forever. And don't forget, like, subscribe, and share all our content. Ow!